I grew up in America, of course I basically had to learn an entirely new language just to get them to be able to understand me. I grew up in America, of course people would stare at my teeth anytime I said anything to see if I had the typical British teeth. I grew up in America, of course I was asked if cows in England moo with an English accent. I wish that one was a joke, I really do. I grew up in America, of course I could legally carry pepper spray around in my handbag for self-defence. I grew up in America, of course I would cringe massively when they would just use the word fanny in a casual sentence. It means bum over there. Bum bags are even called fanny packs over there. What? I grew up in America, of course I went to school on one of those yellow school buses that you see in all the American movies. And yes, I went to house parties where we just use those red plastic cups. I get asked by English people all the time if those things are actually real. I grew up in America, of course you would see alligators in every single body of water that you drove past, specifically Florida though, and sometimes you would even have to stop the car to let them cross the road. I grew up in America, of course I think that Walmart is the best place in the entire world and no other shop can compare. I grew up in Florida, of course it was normal to just see random members of the public carrying guns in little holsters on their belt. I grew up in America, of course I'm massively trying to save up my money in order to go back and visit.